It's a new era in CFP to start off this year, put on full display.
My take on this game is simple. I know some people will be upset about it. Good riddance to the Pac-12.
Can you do it in terms of a week to week to week?
I don't see a pathway for this team to miss the college football playoffs.
We want to make sure you have those best bets in the entirety of our betting cards. That was thinking! But he had that program was already going there!
Only on SportsGrid.
We live in a society right now where everybody's a snowflake, everybody's a cupcake, and everybody thinks that nothing is fair. Everything is like, it's not fair. We should have a better chance. We need more. You know what? I'm old enough to remember when you needed to have a perfect goddamn record to win a college football championship. That's the way it was. 11-1, too bad.
Sports Rage tonight, only on SportsGrid.
The two guys that can do it all.
Too much electricity this morning.
This is a good time. We're having a lot of fun.
I had to do a triple take. Ka-ching! Why? Because of parity.
I didn't mean to offend.
Yeah, it's not going to happen.
Load management is a dirty word.
Let him rip.
You know what? Circumstances provide the results. What? How do you do this once? Oh, Donnie, you got such a good show there.
A network that is booming.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
When you look at Marcus Johnson, when you look at Nikola Jokic, these aren't guys that are big, super athletic, dunking and jumping over people. These are just guys that are clean, skilled footwork, and do things below the rim that make the everyday guy look like it'd be like, I can do that. But you can't, and neither can I.
Betting above the rim, only on SportsGrid.
It's official. Hour number 2 is underway on this Wednesday hump day right here on the Early Line, Sirius XM channel 159. Donnie Wrightside along with Dubs Anderson, and a lot more hot topics to go. It moves fast. Like Wednesday, it's our job here, Dubsy, to start to get the people prepared for the weekend. An action-packed second hour that will do that. And also, we want to talk some championship odds too here, Dubsy.
Johnny, I'm getting minutes. I'm getting reps. I'm not coming off the floor. It is up and back.
You're not Embiid.
Track meet
You're
style
ready.
of programming. I'm not JoJo Embiid. Your boy's not carrying extra timber into this one, Donnie. Primed up, and that's what it's going to take to move through this next hour, because there is no shortage in the sports and sports betting landscape, and a couple of big storylines as we move through the month of November.
Yeah, I like this, man, because it's my favorite time of the year. By the way, let me ask you off topic, Dubsy. Like, for me, I love Thanksgiving. It is my favorite day. Now, as a kid growing up, obviously it's Christmas. You get toys and all that good stuff here. But every day, you can make yourself in the Christmas day. Throw a couple bets down, grab a couple pizzas here, buy yourself something nice. But for me, Dubsy, Thanksgiving next week is my favorite day of the year. What is your favorite holiday?
I think it would be Thanksgiving. Since coming across to the States, I'm like, what is this thing? What is Turkey Day? Don't give me the turkey, Donnie. Just give me a plate of stuffing and a bit of gravy, maybe a little bit of mashed potatoes there for your boy, a couple of cheeky tickets on these holidays. And, you know, big advocate for responsible gaming and gambling, but it really feels nice to just have a couple fired off. You can sit back, put the feet up, maybe a couple of cheeky sodas and watch some sports, Donnie. That's all I need in my life. And if we can back a couple of winners, fantastic. Is this number one for you, Donnie? What's it look like in the DRS household?
Yeah, it is. And by the way, this year, maybe a little bit more. You know, spike those sodas, Dubsy, when you're going to have to know that look at this. It's going to be the Giants and the Cowboys for that middle of the afternoon game, which you can probably take a nap. But I got to tell you this. I love Thanksgiving because I love football and I love to eat. Two things that, you know, certainly mesh perfectly. But as a kid, like sometimes your taste buds change. As a kid, I never would even go near the cranberry, Dubs. But as I got older, cranberry, absolutely sensational. I got to say this. Like, I even feel like the cranberry out of the aluminum can is even better than the fry. Like, I love cranberry now, Dubsy. Like you get the turkey, you get the stuffing, and the cranberry. Mix that together in one bite. Sensational, man. It's sensational.
Donnie, what does game day attire look like for yourself? For me, I get the Ugg boots out, I get the sweats on. You've got the sort of low fitting waistband there. You don't want to be wearing that belt. But what's the game plan for DRS? What are we rocking?
Yeah, here's the game. Here's the game plan for me. Since we do work on Thursday, and everything, like I got to carry the show. Like Kevin's already checked out; he wants to get to the turkey.
Yeah.
Joe Lisi's making phone calls like during the breaks here. I got to carry that show. So before I can relax, it's 10 to 12. It's Pro Football Today. Then we get home, Dubsy. We go right into the sweats. Right, nice Nike sweatpants, maybe Nike hoodie. There, I'm staying at home each year here. The wife's cooking a nice turkey, so that's my game day apparel because I got to carry this network on that day. Then I get to eat. How about that?
DRS, an absolute vibe. Looking forward to Thanksgiving. Looking forward to smashing some winners in the sweatpants while feeding myself nothing but stuffing, gravy, and mash. And maybe a bit of cranberry, Donnie. Really haven't dabbled with that in the past, but maybe it's time to live a little.
Pumpkin pies, apple pies, coconut cream pies. Oh, man, give me the Thanksgiving. But before we get there, Dubsy, you know what teams are thankful for this season right now at the FanDuel Sportsbook? It's the Detroit Lions, now the favorites to win the Super Bowl at a plus 350 price, followed by the Kansas City Chiefs, who suffered their first loss of the season to the Buffalo Bills. They're 5-1, the Bills, plus 650. The Ravens, 8-1, and also the Eagles at 8-1. And by the way, Dubsy, in 2 weeks now, the Eagles will be in Baltimore to take on the Ravens. Let's start right up top. Detroit Lions, plus 350, deserving to be the number one team here on the odds board at the FanDuel Sportsbook for you?
Yeah, they've played some really good football. And if you're looking to find that ceiling, I don't think we've seen it yet for Detroit. Jared Goff, he's been playing fantastic. Career best kind of numbers. You look at the run that they have put it together. Only loss coming early this season to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. So looking at how they can close out the season, I think they've got a pretty good schedule here as well. They get to square off against the Colts. They'll face the Bears 2 times and then the 49ers and Vikings to finish off the season here. But I think the Lions will look fantastic. Dan Campbell has done a tremendous job with this side. It looks like a locker room that's absolutely buying in. They've got the run game to set the table. They've got arguably one of the best wide receivers in the business in Amon-Ra St. Brown. And they've also brought a bit of pressure on the defensive side, which we thought may have been the missing key. Once Big Hutch, Aiden Hutchinson, went down earlier this season, it was, the year's going to be done. They can only go so far in this thing, but suddenly defense is looking very strong there as well, taking a lot of pressure to opposing quarterbacks, and they can score with the best of them, Donnie. This is a gritty football team. They can do it with the run game, or they can also, slice it with a track meet, and if they get it in their building, it's going to be really tough in trying to topple the Detroit Lions. So, yes, absolutely agree with the odds makers that they have been the best team. And I certainly think if you look at the levels to this thing, they may just have an extra gear than what we've seen from a couple of these other big contenders.
If the Detroit Lions, Dubs, you have home field advantage throughout the playoffs, I believe this year only 2 road games that would be outdoors. I think it was the Green Bay Packers game, which you saw they played in that rain and came up with a victory, and then coming up against the Chicago Bears. That's something to keep an eye on. Let's do this. Kansas City, Buffalo, and the Ravens, 5-1, plus 650, and 8-1 respectively. And we'll include the Philadelphia Eagles at an 8-1 price. Of those 4 teams, who would get your attention here, Dubsy, with those price points?
I think the Buffalo Bills at plus 650. Josh Allen he's also having a career best season, and there's been no standout on offense, outside of Josh Allen. They're really spreading it and get it done in a multitude of ways. The Ravens sitting at 8-1. I guess that's been the welcomed movement in the betting market as the Lions firm up. You've seen the Bills and the Ravens now drifting out, and the Eagles sitting there at plus 800 as well, Donnie. I really feel like you look at the top of the odds board here, and you know what you're getting with the Detroit Lions. We think we know what we've got with the Kansas City Chiefs. I mean, their record speaks for itself, and maybe that was the wake-up call to just sort of refocus for the back half of the year. But the Bills and Josh Allen scare me. I think he is the MVP. The Baltimore Ravens, arguably the best 1-2 punch in Lamar Jackson, King Henry, and a slew of other offensive weapons. They're not going away in a hurry. And your Philadelphia Eagles, Donnie, I mean, Saquon Barkley, he's having a fantastic year. Jalen Hurts, they've got maybe the best 1-2 tandem wide receivers in the NFL. So it's probably not the answer you're looking for, Donnie, but I really do think it is wide open, and the market's pretty reflective of that.
I'll tell you three teams here that come in just behind the Philadelphia Eagles, the Texans, the 49ers, and the Green Bay Packers. Sort of lightning rods here because we know they have the talent to succeed. If you look at the Houston Texans, great quarterback here, just starting to get healthy again, polished off the Cowboys, and it looks like they're going to win their division. But then the 49ers and the Packers come up because it looks like the 49ers, who coming into the season always going to be amongst some of those favorites here to get to the NFC Championship game and possibly win a Super Bowl. Injuries have derailed it. They sit at 500. And the Green Bay Packers, who did pull out a victory here with a blocked field goal against the Chicago Bears, haven't looked their best, but a lot of talent. Of the 49ers, the Packers, and the Texans, any buy-in points for one of those three teams for you, Dubs?
Yeah, I think it'd be the Packers. Jordan Love, tremendous quarterback. Josh Jacobs, he's having a really good run of it. The wide receivers, Reed Dubs, Christian Watson, he had a big outing last week. I think there's a bit of upside there with the Packers, and it's not a game of just chasing long shots, but there is value there at 19-1 plus 1,900. That number doesn't add up for me. So I like the Packers there as a bit of a value spot coming out of the NFC North. They're obviously going to have to rattle up a couple of games. And Donnie, I know I've been harping on about a real long shot amongst the outliers. I don't think the Rams are just out of it. I know that they had a bit of their wake-up medicine against the Dolphins. They picked up one against the Pats. They're now 2 wins back. But you look at the schedule, if they could topple the 49ers and the Cards to try and close this thing out, I think they're live at a monster price in trying to make a playoff push. So, yes, I think there's value behind the Packers, and the monster long number for me is the Rams out here on the West Coast.
70-1 price. You want to knock those odds down here? What do you got to do, Dubsy? Beat the Philadelphia Eagles on Sunday Night Football in Los Angeles. It would be a great game. The Eagles currently at the FanDuel Sportsbook favored by 2.5 points in that game. If you want an even longer long shot to thread the needle, how about those Cincinnati Bengals at a 90-1 price? They got some work to do. There are options to make the playoffs. More football talk next, right here on the Early Line.
The sharpest football contest show in the land, the Las Vegas Football Contest Show, focuses on Circus Sports Million, Circus Survivor, and the Westgate Super Contest, handicapping the games and releasing our contest picks every week of the season. With 2 former Super Contest winners, Brady Cannon and James Salinas, a former NFL player, Mike Pritchard, and over $1 million in contest prize money won combined, the Las Vegas Football Contest Show will have you prepared this season like none other.
We live in a society right now where everybody's a snowflake, everybody's a cupcake, and everybody thinks that nothing is fair. Everything is like, it's not fair. We should have a better chance. We need more. You know what? I'm old enough to remember when you needed to have a perfect goddamn record to win a college football championship. That's the way it was. 11-1, too bad.
Sports Rage tonight, only on SportsGrid.
Grandma Bear, who owns the football team, probably comes in, gives a little, oh, man, you're such a good little boy out there. Congratulations, the way you coach this football team. I'm never going to fire you.
Totally, I missed you pinching your own cheek as I was looking down and did not know we were getting.
Oh, Donnie, you got such a good show there with that guy named Ben. Like, that's what your grandma would do to you when you go see her on Thanksgiving or Christmas,
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
Together, both Devontae Adams and Garrett Wilson had huge nights. Aaron Rodgers loves the 2 big targets, and he says if this is going to happen, going to be very tough on the defense to decide who they want to go after.
Adams and this kid, Wilson, I won't deny what they can do, but nobody else does jack.
Pharrell Coast to Coast, only on SportsGrid.
Talking about the AFC here, and we had maybe a minor shakeup last week where you saw an unbeaten Kansas City Chiefs team go into Buffalo and suffer their first loss of the season. But if you are looking at the FanDuel Sportsbook and bring up the odds to be the winners of the conference, it's still the Kansas City Chiefs at a plus 220 price. Why? Because they're still sitting standings-wise above the Buffalo Bills, even though they do not have that tiebreaker. The Buffalo Bills at a plus 290 price, and then the Baltimore Ravens at plus 390. Then the shelf comes in, and we see that Houston Texans price at a 9-1. Dubsy, let's start with the top three. And the question I'm asking you, the Kansas City Chiefs at a plus 220 price, deserving to be the odds leader at the FanDuel Sportsbook for the AFC.
Yeah, they really are, Donnie. The class will prevail. They've been fantastic. I know the Bills had their measure, but going into Buffalo was always going to be a big ask. Patty Mahomes is an underdog. Cannot believe they lost that one. But for the Kansas City Chiefs, they've looked really strong, Donnie. If you've put a line through what we saw against the Bills, they've got some nice-looking weapons. I mean, DeAndre Hopkins, he's turning back the clock. Kelsey's getting more involved. The run game is suddenly getting healthy for the back half of the year. And it's Patrick Mahomes, it's Andy Reid, it's Spags on the defensive side of things. So the Kansas City Chiefs are not going to lose a step here. They were always going to lose a game. It's a very tough and tall order in trying to go through the regular season undefeated against a very spirited Buffalo Bills. And this is something we've seen over the last 3 or 4 years. That was the Super Bowl for Buffalo in week 11. It wasn't going to be in 4-6 weeks from now. So I think the Kansas City Chiefs, just on what they have achieved in the last 2 years and what we have seen early in this season, absolutely should be the team to beat. And the odds makers obviously protecting against the public. They're sitting at plus 220.
You see that team also at the Baltimore Ravens at a plus 390 price. But if you are looking at the standings here in the AFC, if the season ended today, the divisional winners, the Chiefs, the Bills, the Steelers, and the Texans. Then you look at the wild card, it's the Chargers, Ravens, and Broncos. And I want the center here on the Baltimore Ravens. We know how talented they are. Maybe the best quarterback in football, Lamar Jackson, trying to win his third straight MVP trophy. We'll see if he can get there. Derrick Henry coming over has been great. But they have struggled a bit sitting at 7-4, and they are priced here up the top of the standings in the AFC. We know when it's all said and done, they're going to have a say in how the AFC goes down. Are we still buying the Baltimore Ravens right now, even with that loss to the Steelers where they're no longer in first place in the AFC North?
Look, I've lost a bit of stock, to be honest, Donnie, and not to say that this was, the referendum game going against the Steelers, but it kind of was. It had the feeling of a playoff game, and that's always going to be a knock on the Ravens until they prove otherwise. I think they're really questionable in a high-pressure situation, not to say that all of the offense is. I'm squarely looking at Lamar Jackson. I think he makes some spotty calls at times. I don't think he's fantastic under pressure. They abandoned the run game, and it was absolute head-scratch at the back half of last season, and that was enough to bring the run undone. So I think the Ravens could be a little vulnerable in this spot. And you look at who they've got over the next couple of weeks here. It's the Chargers, who are playing some really good football out here on the West Coast, and then taking on the Eagles back in their building. So if they were to lose the next two, or maybe drop one of the next two, that could be enough to just dampen the confidence a touch there. Not to go against Lamar Jackson, but I've just been a little critical when it matters the most. And until he proves otherwise, Donnie, happy to be wrong in this spot.
Yeah, we'll take a look also at another one of those teams here listed in the standings. The Pittsburgh Steelers, again, if the season ended today, they would be the victors here in the AFC North. If we look at them moving forward, now they just got a big win over the Ravens, beat the Commanders on the road, which was solid. They're going to take on the Browns on Thursday, which is always a tough game. Weather conditions, maybe some rain, maybe some sleet in the forecast, temperatures in the 30s, some wind, and it's always hard to go on the road on a Thursday night against a division rival. Then they take on the Bengals, the Browns again, the Eagles, the Ravens, the Chiefs, and the Bengals to end that season. What is your outlook for the Pittsburgh Steelers? I love the way they're playing. They're picking up victories week to week to week, but that schedule looks so crazy. Is there a chance for you that another team in that division, i.e. the Baltimore Ravens, can come back and win that division even though they're roughly a game and a half back?
Yeah, I think they can, Donnie. I think it's still wide open, the AFC North, but flowers where flowers are due. The Pittsburgh Steelers have certainly shocked me of the play that we've seen over the last month. I was, had concerns about Russell Wilson coming back in a quarterback, but he's looked fantastic. And suddenly they've got the passing game going. They can get vertical. They're a tough and gritty kind of natured style of football. And it's Mike Tomlin. The record speaks for itself. I came into this season saying eventually the talent is going to parallel with that winning record, and maybe it comes undone. But at 8-2, first in the AFC North, this is not a team that you'd want to play against. It's not going to be easy going into Cleveland or up there to Cincy, but I do think the Steelers are not going to slow down in the slightest here. They can get it done in a real arm-style way of playing football and the low scorers. And for me, Donnie, defense wins championships. This is a team that's built for the big occasion, whether they get it done in their building or they're going to go on the road. They are always going to be a very tough out. This is not a team that you're just going to wipe off the floor.
Let's take a look at some of these projected wildcard teams. I do want to remove out of the equation the Chargers, who currently sit in the AFC at a 13-1 price to win that. And also, of course, the Baltimore Ravens at a plus 390. Let's take a look at those lightning in a bottle type teams, though. The Denver Broncos, 33-1 to win the AFC. The Miami Dolphins, 40-1 to win the AFC. The Bengals, 48-1, and the Colts at 50-1. These aren't to win the Super Bowl. This is the AFC. Any one of those teams that you feel, Dubsy, could get on a roll and maybe have a say in the AFC with these big lotto numbers.
Yeah, I think it'd be the Denver Broncos, and not to say it's a team of good players. It's another well-coached team, very similar to the Pittsburgh Steelers. I had question marks after that beatdown from the Ravens. They return serves. They go into Arrowhead. They should have won that game against the Kansas City Chiefs, and then lo and behold, Bo Nix was in his bag, absolutely dealing there in Denver on Sunday. The Falcons are a good football team. The Denver Broncos made them look very basic and ordinary. And if you look at their schedule, I think they win the next 3. That would put them at, 9 wins for the season. They're going to keep themselves right in the hunt for a playoff spot, and a team that you would not want to take lightly. Bo Nix is looking better and better the further this season goes. I know Daniels is odds on there for Rookie of the Year, but Bo Nix, if he can continue to win games for Denver, he's going to be right there as well. So I love the Broncos as a bit of a wild card run, a bit of a sleeper play.
Yeah, I think we might be able to get one of those long-distance teams here to try to make a run at the AFC Championship game. We'll see. The objective here for the rest of the AFC teams is to get Kansas City out of home field advantage at Arrowhead throughout the holidays. Next, we're going to talk some NFC football. Are the Lions the best team in the conference and the NFL? Dubsy and Donnie, we'll talk about that next and much more.
The sharpest football contest show in the land, the Las Vegas Football Contest Show, focuses on Circus Sports Million, Circus Survivor, and the Westgate Super Contest, handicapping the games and releasing our contest picks every week of the season. With 2 former Super Contest winners, Brady Cannon and James Salinas, a former NFL player, Mike Pritchard, and over $1 million in contest prize money won combined, the Las Vegas Football Contest Show will have you prepared this season like none other.
We live in a society right now where everybody's a snowflake, everybody's a cupcake, and everybody thinks that nothing is fair. Everything is like, it's not fair. We should have a better chance. We need more. You know what? I'm old enough to remember when you needed to have a perfect goddamn record to win a college football championship. That's the way it was. 11-1, too bad.
Sports Rage tonight, only on SportsGrid.
Grandma Bear, who owns the football team, probably comes in, gives a little, oh, man, you're such a good little boy out there. Congratulations, the way you coach this football team. I'm never going to fire you.
Totally, I missed you pinching your own cheek as I was looking down and did not know we were getting.
Oh, Donnie, you got such a good show there with that guy named Ben. Like, that's what your grandma would do to you when you go see her on Thanksgiving or Christmas,
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
Together, both Davante Adams and Garrett Wilson had huge nights. Aaron Rodgers loves the 2 big targets, and he says if this is going to happen, going to be very tough on the defense to decide who they want to go after.
Adams and this kid, Wilson, I won't deny what they can do, but nobody else does jack.
Pharrell Coast to Coast, only on SportsGrid.
The Motor City. Could everything in the NFC go through Detroit before we wind up in the Super Bowl in New Orleans? Because if we are looking, Dubsy, at the FanDuel Sportsbook right now, it's the Detroit Lions at a plus 160 price to win the NFC, followed by the Philadelphia Eagles, the Green Bay Packers, the Minnesota Vikings, and the 49ers. The Lions starting to strengthen their grip on the odds market over the Philadelphia Eagles. I think the Lions are the best team in the NFC. I've thought that for a few weeks and have bet them multiple times now. That number is dropping every week. Why? Because of close to 50-point wins that they're putting up over football teams. The Lions, Dubsy, in that one spot. Do you agree with the odds market?
Absolutely. If you look at the odds market, it's not just a matter of being up top of the NFC, but up top of the Super Bowl odds as well. Yep. So plus 160, they're playing some really good football. They've now won 8 on the bounce. They've got Jared Goff arguably having career best season. And that's the highlight, Donnie. I mean, to go through the Detroit Lions, you're probably going to have to put up 35 points. Maybe you've got to put up a 52-piece, which is what we saw last week and going against the Jags. So they're playing some really good football. I think there are a lot of lessons learned at the back end of last season. You know, we thought maybe they overachieved, but they've squashed that coming back in for a new year. They're playing with a lot of confidence, and it just looks like a locker room and a head coach that you'd want to play for. Everyone's on the same page. There's no egos. You know, Jared Goff looks like he's just going about business, and that's a quarterback that you'd want to play alongside with, especially with the efficiency that we've seen. I know he had those turnovers the week prior there, but when Jared Goff is on and he's humming, I think he is fantastic. And I guess that's the maturity that we've seen from Jared Goff over the last couple of seasons. He didn't let that, stir him sideways. He just got back in the game. He got him the dub over the Texans and then came back against the Jags and absolutely blitzed them. So a team with a very strong 1-2 punch with the run game and some of the other dynamic weapons they've got. I absolutely agree. Detroit Lions should be up top of the odds market. And I think they're just warming up, Donnie. They're going to be a very tough out on Sundays.
The most complete offense in the NFL, maybe secondarily, possibly maybe you could say the Philadelphia Eagles at that point. And boy, that's going to be a titanic clash, Dubsy, if they make it into the playoffs. But if we do look right now at the NFC playoff picture, here's what's interesting. If the season ended today, Lions 9-1, first overall seed. Eagles 8-2, Cardinals 6-4, Falcons 6-5. Those are the division winners. But take a look at the wild card. Vikings, Packers, Commanders, Rams, and Seahawks. In that, 9 teams that we've noted here, the 49ers don't come up, and all 3 other NFC West teams do come up. So let's focus on the 49ers. On the FanDuel Sportsbook, an 11-1 price to win the NFC Championship. Are they buried? Is there a chance they get healthy? What is your viewpoint of the 49ers right now?
I think they're up against it, Donnie, and I think the record tells us everything. They're a 500 team from what we've seen. I think it's going to be a really tough one going into Lambeau to take on the Packers. They've still got the Rams, the Dolphins, who are looking better and better. I know it's not a lot, but they're certainly showing improvement. And they've got the Lions and the Cardinals. So squaring off against a couple of divisional foes to close out the season. NFC West, I think, is still wide open, but I just don't think it's going to be the 49ers who'll put in a run together. I mean, CMC is back, but he's not at full health, and you can only get him to carry so much. Injuries have been a massive concern for San Francisco, and I just think it's a sign of the times. If you're not at full strength, even if you do have one of the best playing rosters in the National Football League, it's not going to be enough for the 49ers in trying to make a tilt at this thing. If you're looking at the NFC West of teams who could make that run with that momentum, I think it'd be the Rams getting back to full health. I know the concerning spots over the last couple of weeks, but that's who I'd be looking towards. I'd play the Rams straight over on top of the 49ers, Donnie. What about yourself? Can they settle on the cattle to make that tilt?
It's hard to try to kick the 49ers out of it because how talented they are, but it's clear things just aren't working at this point. And I always like to say this, Dubsy, you never just turn the injuries off. They are banged up right now. They're probably going to sustain even more injuries. Can they bounce back? And also, is Brock Purdy going to be that $60 million quarterback next year that could lead you this year and show you why he's worth that money? Let me ask you this question. The NFC North, are we leaving out or maybe looking over the Minnesota Vikings who sit at 8-2 or the 7-3 Green Bay Packers? Legitimately, if I gave you one of those 2 teams, Packers or Vikings, who would you take here to possibly win the NFC?
Well, I've already pumped up the chances for the Packers, but don't sleep on the Vikings. They've been playing some really good football. They've won the last 3 for Sammy Darnold. I mean, what a year he's put together. Aaron Jones is playing some good football, and you've got the best wide receiver in the league right now in Justin Jefferson. So do not sleep on the Minnesota Vikings. They've got the weapons, and they could be the team just chilly, sneaking under the radar.
MVP odds up next. Most people talk about Josh Allen. How about my guy Russ? Russ? We'll be back.
The sharpest football contest show in the land, the Las Vegas Football Contest Show, focuses on Circus Sports Million, Circus Survivor, and the Westgate Super Contest, handicapping the games and releasing our contest picks every week of the season. With 2 former Super Contest winners, Brady Cannon and James Salinas, a former NFL player, Mike Pritchard, and over $1 million in contest prize money won combined, the Las Vegas Football Contest Show will have you prepared this season like none other.
We live in a society right now where everybody's a snowflake, everybody's a cupcake, and everybody thinks that nothing is fair. Everything is like, it's not fair. We should have a better chance. We need more. You know what? I'm old enough to remember when you needed to have a perfect goddamn record to win a college football championship. That's the way it was. 11-1, too bad.
Sports Rage tonight, only on SportsGrid.
Grandma Bear, who owns the football team, probably comes in, gives a little, oh, man, you're such a good little boy out there. Congratulations, the way you coach this football team. I'm never going to fire you.
Totally, I missed you. Pinching your own cheek? Because I was looking down and did not know we were getting.
Oh, Donnie, you got such a good show there with that guy named Ben. Like, that's what your grandma would do to you when you go see her on Thanksgiving or Christmas,
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
Together, both Davante Adams and Garrett Wilson had huge nights. Aaron Rodgers loves the 2 big targets, and he says if this is going to happen, going to be very tough on the defense to decide who they want to go after.
Adams and this kid Wilson, I won't deny what they can do, but nobody else does jack.
Pharrell Coast to Coast, only on SportsGrid.
And down the stretch we come in the MVP market in the NFL. My goodness, great players here, great games on the horizon. You get the extra credit here, Dubsy, if your team knocks off other good teams and you can propel yourself in this market. It has been changing. It was Mahomes. It was Lamar Jackson. Now it's Josh Allen. So looking at the leaderboard here in the odds market at the FanDuel Sportsbook, look at this. Josh Allen at a plus 125 price to become the MVP. Why? On 425 this past Sunday Eastern, we watched the Buffalo Bills take on the Kansas City Chiefs. The victor was Josh Allen, the Buffalo Bills. The final touchdown was running on a 4th and 2, 20-plus yard jaunt by Josh Allen. He takes control of the MVP race at plus 125, Dubsy. Do you agree right now he should be in the lead at the FanDuel Sportsbook?
Yes, absolutely. Josh Allen has done more for his team than we've seen from any other quarterback. And not to say it's going to be a quarterback award as a moral there, but if you look at history, it tells us, yes, it's likely going to that quarterback position. And for Josh Allen, he's been fantastic. 18 passing touchdowns. You highlighted, Donnie. He's been doing it with the run game there as well. 5 rushing touchdowns, 306 rushing yards, and the Bills have now won 6 on the bounce. We thought maybe with no Diggs, they'd lose a bit of that offensive spark, but it hasn't been the case. They've looked better and better, and I do not think we've seen the full levels to this thing from that star quarterback in Josh Allen. He is finding a way to get this team across the wire, and I do think he's still got a little left in the tank, and this is a market in which you need to pick up a couple of style points. We certainly get that from what we saw last week in toppling the Kansas City Chiefs. He was fantastic, and that's what it's going to take to win this one. That's the biggest move we've seen in the market. Josh Allen leapfrogging Lamar Jackson to now sit as that top betting choice.
We did see Jared Goff here, drop down in the standings, but climb right back up with that masterful performance against a lowly Jacksonville Jaguars team. He sits at 8-1, and it's clear that sometimes the coaches are going to help you out. He's throwing late in those football games while they're up 5 and 6 touchdowns, and hey, rightfully so. If you believe in your quarterback, you want to give him the best chance to win an MVP and help him out. That goes a long way in the locker room. But if you are shifting the focus back to Patrick Mahomes for just a moment, he now sits at a 12-1. Not having the greatest statistical season, but where was the bump coming from, Dubsy? It's because they were 9-0 entering in that game against the Buffalo Bills. If he throws 2 touchdown passes in that game, which I believe he threw 3, and they still win the football game, he still might be the favorite overall. But the fact of the matter is you get that extra credit for these head-to-head wins in the NFL. Not an 82-game season here, 162 like in Major League Baseball. You only play 17 games. Each one of those certainly weighted accordingly. Is there a chance in your mind that Patrick Mahomes, who sits at a 12-1 price right now, can climb back up and be the leader when it's all said and done?
That's going to be a tall order, Donnie. I certainly think he can grab a bit of stock with taking on the Raiders and the Panthers over the next 2 games there. Can absolutely stuff the stat sheet. Is that going to be enough? Probably not. I mean, on track to have a, career low statistically for the star quarterback for the Kansas City Chiefs. And I don't think this is a market that matters so much to Patrick Mahomes or Andy Reid. They're in the business of winning football games. They're in the business of winning championships, and I don't think this will be the focus. And if they do hold on to such, an enticing record, likely could miss that final week of the regular season. So no, I do not think Patrick Mahomes can get back to the top of this board. I think he'll buy a lot of stock. He'll get, a lot of teachers credit, if you will, going through the next couple of games here. But at plus 1,200, there's value in it. I just don't see that Patty Mahomes could do enough to overtake a Jared Goff, a Lamar Jackson, or a Josh Allen. The value on that board for me, Donnie, it's got to be with Jared Goff. I mean, the efficiency that we've seen from his play, I would turn it back to Drew Brees. He's sitting right around 74% completion rate, which is, it's something that we just don't see often in the NFL. He had a bad game a couple of weeks ago. He turned back with a bounce back last week, putting up 52 points and lead that offense. So I think that's the value play for me. Jared Goff's sitting there at a decent price.
I'll tell you, look at Lamar Jackson at that 2-1 price, too, because they're low numbers. Plus 125, 2-1 is crazy for an MVP with still, 5, 6, 7 games left in the NFL season. But if we are starting to slide it down, how do you win the MVP in most sports here, right, Dubsy? It's putting up big statistical seasons. We understand Lamar Jackson is doing that, but you know who's actually having the biggest statistical season right now? It's Joe Burrow. He sits at 45-1 to win the MVP. The leader right now in passing yards and also in touchdown passes with 27. It's not his fault that his defense is terrible, but certainly you're going to get knocked. Well, how can you have an MVP mean that much to your team if the team doesn't even make the playoffs? I think it's so intriguing because I talked about the Cincinnati Bengals trying to make the playoffs where they had to go 1-2 in their next 3 games. Now, granted, those 3 games are just about up here with the Pittsburgh Steelers. After a bye week, they have to win that. They lost the first 2 of those games. So as I look at Joe Burrow, is there any chance in your mind, like let's just say he throws for 45 touchdown passes and 9 interceptions on the season. If they can make the playoffs, he's going to get that surge late in this voting process here as we go through the end of the regular season. If it looks like there's a chance they can get in, he would certainly be the catalyst here, Dubsy.
First in QBR, first in passing touchdowns, 27 and counting for the season. Won't get to see the Bengals out there this week, but you look at the schedule when they return to action, it's pretty favorable for the Bengals to make a bit of a tilt towards the playoffs. They could maybe lose another game, but likely would have to win out. And for Joe Burrow, he's got the stats to support it, Donnie. If they could just find a way into the postseason, from what we have seen from Joe Burrow and star wide receiver there in Jamar Chase, it really has been special stuff. So at 45-1 plus 4,500, that is a massive number and expected to really shorten up the further we get in once they try and close out this thing. The Steelers, the Cowboys, Titans, Browns, I think this is a really good chance for the Bengals to pick up some steam and momentum. And with that, I think that number would likely shorten up. But yes, I think it's playoffs or bust for Joe Burrow in trying to stay relevant for the MVP conversation.
You're right about that, too. And sometimes you get that moment, like with the Philadelphia 76ers. I think the lowest moment in their season, and also from a publicity standpoint, came in that locker room, argument / meeting after that Miami Heat game. So I bought into the Sixers at a 28-1 price. Are they going to win it? Probably not. As that number improves, then you put some CLV in your pocket, and maybe you can hedge out. That's why I like to take a look here at that 45-1 price on Joe Burrow. This is as low with a legitimate chance to win the MVP as you're going to get, because they lose to the Pittsburgh Steelers. They're not making the playoffs here. And I don't know how you can have an MVP quarterback not make the playoffs. I don't care what his statistics are. So let's just say Joe Burrow at 45-1. Bye week comes up, they beat the Steelers. He's not going to be at 45-1 anymore, or probably half of that. So if there is a buy-in point on Joe Burrow, this is probably the best time to do it. Now, as I said, if they lose to the Steelers, there's the buy-in point was ridiculous because he has no chance to absolutely win that. Let me focus on one more person as we finish out this segment. It's Jalen Hurts sitting at a 17-1 price. The Philadelphia Eagles 8-2 on the season. He's getting a lot of help from Saquon Barkley, which we're going to talk about in the next segment. He's got great wide receivers. He's got a ton of rushing touchdowns. Can we build a case for Jalen Hurts if, let's just say, they run the table with a lot of big victories on the way out? Could he be an MVP candidate legitimately and win it?
Yeah, I think absolutely, Donnie. I mean, he was runner-up in 2022 to Patty Mahomes in the MVP voting, and you look at what we have seen. They've now won 6 in a row for the Eagles. They're sneaking under the radar. He's putting up some monster numbers. I mean, you look at that QB rating, 103-4 there. It has been fantastic. He's had close to 2,200 passing yards with the 12 tutties, and he's kept the turnovers down as well. So the Eagles having a nice little path there to the top seed in the NFC. If they were to continue that momentum, I think Jalen Hurts really is live at a bit of a price there. But again, it's going to go off the back of the Eagles. I know that run game, Saquon Barkley, obviously taken a bit of glitz and glamour away from Jalen Hurts. But what he has done for this Eagles offense truly has been phenomenal. And I feel like, back in 2022, it was getting a lot more sort of fanfare. This year, we're getting lost with a couple of other storylines. But the Eagles, they're just making their path, Donnie. I know you love to hear that, but Philly are the real deal. They're flying high. Big thanks, much in part, to star quarterback Jalen Hurts. So live at a price.
Yeah, we'll talk about a couple of running backs coming up next, but I know another team here that's flying under the radar with a legitimate chance to win their division with an exciting young quarterback. It's the Arizona Cardinals, and it's Kyler Murray at a 35-1 price. They win that division. He plays well. They rise in the standings. He is going to get some looks. Great markets here across. Let's bring in the running back. How do they factor in the MVP and also Offensive Player of the Year right here on the early line?
The sharpest football contest show in the land, the Las Vegas Football Contest Show, focuses on Circus Sports Million, Circus Survivor, and the Westgate Super Contest, handicapping the games and releasing our contest picks every week of the season. With 2 former Super Contest winners, Brady Cannon and James Salinas, a former NFL player, Mike Pritchard, and over $1 million in contest prize money won combined, the Las Vegas Football Contest Show will have you prepared this season like none other.
We live in a society right now where everybody's a snowflake, everybody's a cupcake, and everybody thinks that nothing is fair. Everything is like, it's not fair. We should have a better chance. We need more. You know what? I'm old enough to remember when you needed to have a perfect goddamn record to win a college football championship. That's the way it was. 11-1, too bad.
Sports Rage tonight, only on SportsGrid.
Grandma Bear, who owns the football team, probably comes in, gives a little, oh, man, you're such a good little boy out there. Congratulations, the way you coach this football team. I'm never going to fire you.
Totally, I missed you. Pinching your own cheek? As I was looking down and did not know we were getting...
Oh, Donnie, you got such a good show there with that guy named Ben. Like, that's what your grandma would do to you when you go see her on Thanksgiving or Christmas,
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
Together, both Davante Adams and Garrett Wilson had huge nights. Aaron Rodgers loves the 2 big targets, and he says if this is going to happen, going to be very tough on the defense to decide who they want to go after.
Adams and this kid, Wilson, I won't deny what they can do, but nobody else does jack.
Pharrell Coast to Coast, only on SportsGrid.
One of my favorite markets across the NFL landscapes here in the awards division here is Offensive Player of the Year. Why? Because if you're the best offensive player in football and you win that award, the MVP is the quarterback. So if you're the best offensive player and you play offense, but you're not better than the MVP, it doesn't make any sense. But still, we can vote on it, have some fun, and take a look at it at the FanDuel Sportsbook. Saquon Barkley, Derrick Henry, they're the leaders in the clubhouse right now. It was Derrick Henry for the first, 8-9 weeks of the season. Now, Saquon Barkley has overturned Derrick Henry as the favorite for the regular season Offensive Player of the Year. Barkley sits at a plus 115 price. Derrick Henry at a plus 150 price. You look at some of the numbers here. 1,347 total yards for Barkley. 1,281 here for Derrick Henry. Touchdowns, a big advantage for Derrick Henry of the Baltimore Ravens. 15-10 over Saquon, but that's only because Saquon doesn't get the ball on the goal line and Derrick Henry does. That odds market, is it correct where Barkley right now, Dubs, is the favorite?
Yeah, I'd say it would be, Donnie. And for Saquon Barkley, what we've seen, we're trying to carry the Eagles through some of the struggles early in the season when the wide receivers were banged up. Truly phenomenal stuff. Since coming across from the Giants there, he has looked fantastic. I mean, both running backs, Donnie, at one point on track for 2,000 rushing yards. I mean, if you look at Saquon Barkley in his scrimmage, runs, he's looking at maybe 2,300 yards. It's something that we don't see often in the NFL. So I think Barkley has been fantastic. I think he should be the slight edge front runner instead of Derrick Henry there. But for King Henry, turning back the clock, the big fella, the big steam train running back for the Baltimore Ravens, I guess what would hurt his stock is Lamar Jackson. Lamar Jackson would take more polish away from King Henry once it's all said and done than Jalen Hurts would away from Saquon Barkley. I know that sort of goes against what I was saying prior to the break, that Jalen Hurts has put himself in the MVP conversation, but I just think Lamar sort of takes a bit of attention away from King Henry there. So Saquon Barkley, truly phenomenal numbers, and a lot of the success that we've seen from the Eagles has been thanks to that run game. And for Saquon, I'll tell you what, new destination. He has looked like he's enjoying his new friends, new environment. He's absolutely thriving there for that Eagles offense, Donnie.
No, he certainly is, and he looks great doing it. And again, big game against the Rams this weekend, and then a head-to-head battle between Saquon Barkley and Derrick Henry in Baltimore in 2 weeks. That should be a lot of fun to watch. But also, you see the odds there, Dubs? Plus 115 for Barkley to win it. Henry at a plus 150 price. The MVP markets, Saquon Barkley, 65-1 to win that. Derrick Henry, 100-1 to win the NFL MVP. It's just weird the way they sort of section off where the regular season Offensive Player of the Year, it's probably not going to be a quarterback, but then the quarterback wins the MVP. But the best, again, I always love to get caught up in the semantics here at that point. It doesn't make any sense, but we'll see. And maybe we do have that game in 2 weeks. Whoever has the better game on the ground against the individual teams will be able to win that award. Two great running backs, nonetheless. But let's take a look also at the MVP, basically for the rookies, right? The rookie of the year. Jaden Daniels, Bo Nix, the front runners, with Jaden Daniels a heavy favorite at a minus 550. But Bo Nix has been playing some sensational football, closing that gap. Let's start with the two top guys here, Daniels and Nix. Your outlook between these two to win this award.
I think from where we stand right now, Daniels is actually losing a bit of stock, and Bo Nix is trending in the right direction. If the Broncos can go on to win the next three and get themselves into the playoff dance, I think Bo Nix is certainly going to be a big factor and a much shorter price than what we're getting at plus 400. I think this market is a little reflective of the big storyline from early in the season. Daniels has looked fantastic, and not to take anything away from the Commanders' star quarterback, but I think, the odds makers are sort of projecting from what we saw a little earlier in the year. For Bo Nix, he really hasn't done anything wrong. It's just been a matter of trying to build up a little confidence. And if you look at the quarterbacks and the systems that they've both gone into, there is no questions asked that Bo Nix had a very, very tough sort of incline in trying to learn that offense there for Sean Payton. So I think Bo Nix is thriving. He looks better and better by the week. And what's going to go against the Commanders here in Daniels is he's still playing with that lingering injury. It's a vigorous season. He's copping a couple of more knocks, putting his body on the line there. So if he were to miss one game, I think Bo Nix would absolutely leapfrog Daniels in this market. So the price for me is Bo off the back of the Denver Broncos trying to keep that momentum going into the back half of the year. And you look at the numbers, 19 total tutties, 14 for Daniels. There's about 50 yards to separate him in the passing game. And what about Bo Nix? He's got a receiving touchdown as well, Donnie. Does that count?
Yeah, look, man, adds up to it. Maybe that's the Heisman moment that you need that sort of sticks out and throws you out. Like that's the video that the Denver Broncos will send out and say, this is the reason why we actually get a guy that's going to be an offensive rookie of the year because he catches touchdown as well as throwing them here. Now, we do have some interesting market movement over the past couple weeks, as we stated here, and maybe that does change, but you do have Jaden Daniels at that minus 550 price. Do you remember we were starting the season saying, okay, who's going to win this? Well, it's going to be Caleb Williams. Everybody knows this. Number 1 overall pick, Chicago Bears with all the talent around them. Yes, we know Jaden Daniels is decent, and we'll see if Bo Nix can even be the starting quarterback. Caleb Williams today, Dubsy, is at a 50-1 price to win NFL Offensive Rookie of the Year. Is there any way that he can make some headway and sort of climb back up into respectability in this award number?
Nah, pass for me, Donnie. I was not big on Caleb's chances or stock coming into this season. They put every single weapon around him. If, Bo Nix or Jaden Daniels had the same kind of foundation and pieces that Caleb's had to work with here early in the year, they'd be sitting even better and even prettier in this market. For King Caleb Williams, I mean, really not a shock, Donnie. For the Bears, they haven't figured it out. His play was not fantastic coming out of USC for that final season. You look at his game, and I always had hesitations to how it would translate to the pros. Now, not to say that he's going to be a bust or it's, one and done, but he's going to make some adjustments. He's going to make smarter decisions. You cannot just play off the cuff or try and, get out of the pocket and put yourself under pressure. Some of the passes have been head scratches at times. So I think, the other two young quarterbacks have looked very professional year one. Caleb Williams, he's still got that college football style of play, and it just hasn't translated well so far.
Yeah, they should have won last week. They should have beat the Packers. Maybe his numbers would be a little bit different, but they didn't do that, and he has struggled at times, certainly over the past month. The pass catchers in that environment, Brock Bowers, 18-1. He's been sensational for the Raiders. Marvin Harrison Jr., the young talented wide receiver for the Cardinals, he comes in at a 40-1 price, and also Brian Thomas Jr. of the Jacksonville Jaguars at a 40-1 price. You want to talk some golf, people? We got you covered next. Don't go anywhere. It's the early line.
The sharpest football contest show in the land, the Las Vegas Football Contest Show, focuses on Circus Sports Million, Circus Survivor, and the Westgate Super Contest, handicapping the games and releasing our contest picks every week of the season. With two former Super Contest winners, Brady Cannon and James Salinas, a former NFL player, Mike Pritchard, and over $1 million in contest prize money won combined, the Las Vegas Football Contest Show will have you prepared this season like none other.
We live in a society right now where everybody's a snowflake, everybody's a cupcake, and everybody thinks that nothing is fair. Everything is like, it's not fair. We should have a better chance. We need more. You know what? I'm old enough to remember when you needed to have a perfect goddamn record to win a college football championship. That's the way it was. 11-1, too bad.
Sports Rage tonight, only on SportsGrid.
Grandma Bear, who owns the football team, probably comes in, gives a little, oh, man, you're such a good little boy out there. Congratulations, the way you coach this football team. I'm never going to fire you.
Totally, I missed you pinching your own cheek as I was looking down and did not know we were getting.
Oh, Donnie, you got such a good show there with that guy named Ben. Like, that's what your grandma would do to you when you go see her on Thanksgiving or Christmas,
The early line, only on SportsGrid.
Together, both Davante Adams and Garrett Wilson had huge nights. Aaron Rodgers loves the two big targets, and he says if this is going to happen, going to be very tough on the defense to decide who they want to go after.
Adams and this kid, Wilson, I won't deny what they can do, but nobody else does jack.
Pharrell Coast to Coast, only on SportsGrid.
Getting chilly up here in the Northeast. It's the early line, the end of hour number 2. Let's bring some heat here because why? We want to talk some golf. It's Donnie right side of Stubbs Anderson and also Keith Stewart, our resident PGA pro, right here on the SportsGrid Network. Keith, how are we feeling today?
Guys, I feel fantastic to be with you on the early line. The only thing that could be better was the barbecue that I had last night down here in the Low Country. Ooh. It was absolutely magnificent.
Fantastic stuff. Let's get started. Let's have some fun. The RSM Classic is this week. Sea Island Resort, St. Simons Island, Georgia. And we look at this par 70 course, about 7,000 yards. Keith, as always, tell us about this golf course, some weather conditions that we might be looking forward to for this weekend's events.
Well, Donnie, let's start with the fact that there's 2 golf courses for the first 2 rounds. The Sea Island Golf Resort actually houses 3 golf courses, but we're going to use 2 of them, and we have for 9 years now, since 2015, a little bit of a rotation. And that's a good thing because it allows 156 players in the field. And with this being the last event of the year, and everyone going for the top 125 and their 2025 tour card, I love all the guys that are here. The Plantation course, par 72, a little over 7,000 yards, a little more inland, a little more tree-lined, a little bit more target-rich. And then you go out to the Seaside track, and we're going to play that golf course 3 times. We're going to play it over the weekend as well. Par 70, Tom Fazio, redo in 1999. What you expect out in the marshlands, right there on the coast of St. Simons Sound, very wind applicable, and the golf course itself is super scoreable. Last year, our defending champion is back, Ludwig Aberg. The kid, he shot 61-61 on the weekend, 122. I mean, my eyes couldn't believe it. It was like going back to the Tiger days. And he shot 29 under to set the tournament record and win.
Kid's an absolute stud. Obura is the top choice there in the market, sitting at plus 900, followed by Davis Thompson and Denny McCarthy at 25-1. Who do we like teeing off on Thursday, Keith?
Well, Dubsy, hey, when we look at the favorites, Aberg obviously tops the list. And what he did last year gives us all pause. But here's the thing. On September 5th, a week after the Tour Championship, he had that meniscus surgery. He didn't play golf, and he didn't swing the club, didn't have full swings until late October. He is not tournament tested. So coming in at 10-1 with such short odds against a field of guys that have been playing and making birdies all fall, I'm not quite so sure about that. I'm going to tread lightly. Another favorite, Brian Harmon, local guy. We have 14 guys in the Sea Island Mafia, guys that live here. I don't know why they call them the Mafia down here, but hey, it makes me laugh, so I got to mention it, right? But Brian Harmon, he's another guy. You know, here's a past major winner and certainly a favorite on these grounds. He's coming in at plus 3,000. He hasn't played golf at all. One of the guys, though, Davis Thompson, he has played a little bit of golf. Las Vegas at the Shriners, he finished 5th. And a little side note here. Yes, he's a Georgia grad. Yes, he was once #1 amateur player in the world. But his dad is the tournament director, so he's very familiar with these facilities. For me, I'm going to go a little further down the board with my early lines. But before I talk about that, hey, what are we looking for skill sets this week? There's 2 different golf courses, but they play very similar, guys. So when you're mapping out your lineups on DFS or you're picking your betting winners, make sure you do 2 things. Number 1, we got to favor Bermuda grass putting. This coastal Bermuda is super, super grainy on these greens, and we have proven over the years that the best putters perform well and they make a ton of low scores. And the second thing is that you've got to be a great approach player. Now, with the length of these golf courses, everyone says, well, Keith, everyone's a good wedge player on the PGA Tour. But here's the thing. Over the last 10 winners, 7 of those guys have gained the most in proximity against the field from that 200-plus yard range. Now you say, well, Keith, that's 7,000 yards. How are we getting to that range? Well, there's a bunch of par 3s over 200 yards, and all 6 of the par 5s are reachable. And at plus 200 yards, those guys are scoring there. They're making eagles. They're making birdies, and that's how they're gaining an edge on the field.
Absolutely sensational stuff, Keith, right there. And as you see, if you guys are watching on the TV side, that golf course looks absolutely beautiful, fantastic. Yeah. Hopefully it plays out that way. We are coming to a close on the season here in the PGA Tour. Some changes for the future, Keith. We're hearing some rumblings, changes to the field side and eligibility. Could you tell us a little bit more?
Sure. The PGA Tour is pushing forth changes. Their PAC, their Players Advisory Committee, is talking about the 2026 season. So this is not 2025. They're going to shrink the number of cards that are available at the end of the year. Right now, everyone's fighting for 125. It's going to go down to 100. And then the other thing is that they're going to shrink some field sizes in order to get around the golf course a little bit quicker. Me, it's a little bit of an excuse, but I know this much. If you take the number of cards away, the guys that do earn them are going to get better, and they're going to be a lot more entertaining to watch. Now, real quick, two guys I'd watch this week, Mac Hughes and Eric Cole at plus 4,000. I got to give you the early lean before I get out of the early line.
Now, as always, Keith Stewart bringing the heat. He's our resident PGA Pro right here on the SportsGrid Network. We'll catch up with Keith soon. Thanks once again for joining us this morning. Hour number 3 is next right here on the early line.